We need to start thinking like that. Stop focusing on the negative. Acknowledge it for sure, but focus more on the good that you're doing. Focus more on the achievements that you are reaching.
Cool. Welcome to the 5th episode of In Full Effect. Thanks, Shiraaz, or let's say Shaz for the friends. Ismail, but let's keep it with Shaz for now. Thank you so much for coming. We're here at Saigon Outcast, one of your local spots.
Yep.
Yeah, so Shaz is a friend of mine. We met on a wedding of a mutual friend over 2.5 years ago.
That's true. I actually forgot about that.
Yeah,
yes, that's where we met.
I was only just in Vietnam when this happened. And then we stayed in touch because we're in this little world of Tao Dien and Saigon.
The bubble.
The bubble, yeah. Right, Shaz is from South Africa, but has been in Vietnam for how long?
4 years actually.
4
Last
years?
month I hit the 4-year mark.
Cool. He's a ESL teacher here. He's been teaching for 7 years in Asia. Before that, he was a music producer, radio representative, but presenter, MC for events, audio technician. Anything else I missed?
Well, if you're going to go all the way down the line, I was a waiter as well, sold furniture.
Okay, cool. Right now in Vietnam, you're an ESL teacher, but you also play a fair bit of music.
Yeah.
I see you in the gym very often.
That's true. I'm a very active person.
That's for the reason that's why you do all these stock image. You need to elaborate on that later because. So I follow him on social media a lot, and that's basically a reality show of his life, and it's just like how I keep track of what he's doing. But I got you on here. I want to get know you a little bit better. One of the other reasons I want to get you on the podcast is because every time I see you, most of the time on social media, you're so optimistic, and I just want to share that with the people as well. So listeners, have a good listen to this guy because he's an inspiration for that. Yeah, I think we just can get a little bit into it right now. What do you do now on a daily basis in Vietnam?
I think like daily routines. So we've just come out of a very, very intense lockdown. And schools have reopened about 2 weeks ago. So at the moment, I'm readjusting to working. So before that, I was just, like you mentioned, I'm in the gym all the time. I play a bit of music and just trying to stay mentally healthy and physically healthy through the lockdown. But your question was about now, and now I'm basically working all the time and trying to find time to exercise.
Okay, cool. So you're back in class?
Yep, back in the classroom all day, loving what I do.
Vietnamese children?
Well, it's a mix. I teach at a kindergarten, so it's a mix of Vietnamese children, Western children, so melting pot.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really cool. So I'm very interested for this excited for this question. I want to know what your goal, because you've done a lot, you've traveled a bit. What are your goals and aspirations in life right now?
Okay, so right now, like the way that I think has changed drastically, and it's 100% to do with COVID kind of shaking everything up. Before that, everybody set out goals, everybody set out things that they'd like to accomplish, but COVID kind of just said, stop, chill, you can't do that anymore. So I've had to readjust my goals, and right now my goal is just to be happy and to kind of take myself less seriously and enjoy the things we take for granted every day.
Yeah, so a little bit day by day.
Yeah, exactly.
As long as you're like happy what you do right now.
Yes, that's about it.
Cool.
I know it sounds like one of those flimsy things to say, but being happy is honestly so important, and we really take it for granted. We get so caught up with trying to reach the next level. We get so caught up with trying to accomplish these materialistic things that we forget about being actually happy in the spot that we are.
Okay. So are you happy at the spot you are?
I am very happy. It's taken a while to get here because, everybody took a bit of a knock over the past year or two. But I am actually very happy.
That's awesome to hear. And what do you think, or what did you have to do to actually be happy right now with yourself?
like self introspection, making sure that you are physically healthy because that does contribute. Like I'm not saying you need to be in the gym 24/7. You just need to be physically healthy because when you are physically unhealthy or sick, you automatically don't feel mentally well. So being a little bit physically healthy is very important. Communicating with people, like listening to people's stories, getting things off of your chest, not bottling it up. These are very important things to do. So having a good support structure is also quite important.
Cool, cool. And then you said that you had to readjust a lot because of COVID.
Yeah.
What were your aspirations and goals before that, or even going back in time?
So, like, just to give you a little bit of background, I am an ESL teacher right now, but and before this, I used to be a radio producer and a radio presenter. But every job that I seem to have, I always ended up falling into the training side of things. So when I was working in radio, I would train the radio presenters or the producers to do what they do. Even when I was working in hospitality, I used to train the new staff that came in as waiters. And as an ESL teacher, I kind of started training teachers to do what they do because I'm usually at companies for an extended period of time, so I know the ins and outs of the companies. And I'm also, like, this is going to sound horrible to say, but I'm fairly good at what I do. So people usually tend to ask me how to do the same thing, especially if they're fresh off the boat. So the goals that I had was to move into training and facilitation of ESL teachers, but that has somewhat changed because of the situation we're in.
The next question is a little bit what the podcast is about is what is your full potential, or what is your take on full potential?
So full potential to me, what that means is, stepping away from what's always seen, because the way that we affect people, it ranges from helping people out with money and food to helping people grow to reach their full potential. So for me, full potential means giving and helping people grow in their own lives.
Okay. So is it the capability for yourself to do that? Or is it even the achievements of doing it?
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, like the way my mom raised me, she's a giver as well. She's a giver and a healer. And I was always raised to not think of yourself all the time, to be somebody that's very willing and open to giving, because there's growth in giving, there's rewards in giving. So that's kind of what the way that I live my life.
Okay, cool. Very interesting. So you mentioned that for you, your goals and aspiration right now is to be happy and to be content with yourself and how you feel. Is that you think your ultimate goal moving forward? Do you always want to keep teaching, or what would be your ideal situation right now?
Okay, so just to answer the teaching aspect of it, I've been doing a lot of jobs in my life, and all of them kind of led towards training and teaching. So teaching is something that I definitely want to do. And also over this period where work was getting very thin, I realized how much I enjoy communicating and facilitating learning. So being around, because I teach kids and adults, but being around children and just being part of the process of them learning and absorbing things, it honestly is one of the best feelings that I can't even describe it. It's something that I really love. I work very long hours, and it doesn't matter because I enjoy being in that classroom with those kids.
Cool. That's really nice. So you've done a lot. Were you self-taught to do what you do right now? All these things, even like the capability of teaching, or were you inspired to do so, or did you go to school for this?
So for me, it's mixed because I have academic achievements that I had to go through, firstly, and that I wanted to go through. I have about 10 certificates ranging from psychology to sound engineering to education, and then all the way to ESL teaching. But then I've also picked up things along the way through every job that I've done. And by this, I mean just learning the way that people think, learning the way that people learn. Because adults learn differently to kids. Kids just soak everything up, whereas adults, you need to kind of find a way for them to absorb the knowledge. Also, my mom's an academic, so it's kind of been passed down.
Yeah. How would you compare between the experience you got through work or the academic achievements? Would you value could you value them against each other, or is it like the
Definitely. I would say that actually doing something hands-on gives you 10 times more experience and knowledge than learning things in the classroom. And the reasoning for this, it could range. Like, I mean, the information that we learn in universities and at colleges, that information is written in textbooks that are at least 5 years old. Whereas people evolve and people change like daily. So actually taking that knowledge and trying to apply it to a physical classroom, it's a very difficult thing to do. So you need to adjust and learn by doing.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I tried university, and I did in high school like a very theoretical way of going. Like I had maths and science, but once I got out of school, I was nothing. I could do nothing with that, right? And I tried university, same thing, and then I started traveling. And I always said, and even before that, I started working from a young age, and all the experiences I picked up during just gave me so much more confidence, so much more knowledge, and it was way more fun to learn as well, rather than from a book or from a teacher that just rambles on the same thing.
Let me tell you a quick story about ESL teaching. So for those who don't know, I think most people who listen to your podcast would know. But for those who don't know, it's teaching English as a second language. And native English speakers usually do this in countries where English isn't the first language. So I studied a course called TESOL, Teaching English to Speakers of Other Languages. It was a 2-year course that I did. And I can tell you with 100% certainty, getting into a classroom and studying for those 2 years, apples and oranges, because all of that information that I had to absorb meant nothing as soon as I got into a classroom with like 10 kids. And I was like, okay, what did the textbook say? And it didn't matter because it's a different situation each time. You can literally have the same lesson for 2 different groups of kids, and it will be completely different day and night.
Okay.
So yeah.
So was it worth doing the 2 years for that?
I would say yes. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not one of those people who say, no, you don't have to go to college. It's a very important thing to do, because you kind of learn how to learn. And that's a very important thing if you want to teach people how to learn.
Yeah, you need to go through that process yourself to understand what you're trying to teach others.
Exactly. And I mean, there is important information in the courses that you do. For example, somebody who wants to be a videographer or a radio producer, sound engineer, you need the technical background as well. So, I mean, there is important pieces of information. But with that being said, learning on the job for me is a lot better.
Yeah, fair enough. You've been through this whole process from back home, traveling in Asia. What other countries have you been?
In terms of teaching, I taught in China for 3 years, and then Vietnam for 4 years. And then South Africa, I was doing programs and facilitation and workshops.
So what made you decide to come to Vietnam in the first place?
So, well, the first place I went to was China. And I went to China first because I'd heard about it through a couple of other friends who were doing it. And there was lots of money to be made. And at that point in my life, like you mentioned early on, it was 7 years ago, money was an important factor. I wasn't doing it for, the gaining of experience, the love of the job, because at that point I hadn't done it yet. For me, it was money. There was a goal, like you mentioned earlier on. Make some money, go back to South Africa, and figure things out on how to be rich very quickly. And that soon changed because it was a very different experience. I really enjoyed teaching. And then you asked, how did I get to Vietnam? I came here during vacation in 2017. It was Lunar New Year, which is known as Tet here. And I just loved it and went back to China, wrapped up my contract, and moved to Vietnam.
That's awesome. Cool. Yeah, Vietnam seemed to catch people a lot of people come here first time for a holiday and then like, I want to be here.
It's honestly, it's like a hidden gem. Like, I mean, everybody knows about Vietnam, but then when you're in it, you're like, okay, this place is
This is a
really
different
cool.
story,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, totally. Throughout your whole journey, have you ever had obstacles that, even though you had your goals, but came in your way, but you overcame those goals? And what kind of effect did that have on you?
So like when I was working in China, I started off as an ESL teacher, and I climbed up the ladder quite quickly, and I became the director of studies of a school, of a language center, sorry. And one of the obstacles was realizing that being in that high of a position, you have to deliver bad news more often. For example, I was managing the academic staff, and most of the meetings that I would have to organize would be something that affected them in a negative way. So, learning how to handle that was something that I had to pick up very, very quickly because, like we mentioned, academic versus on the job learning, you don't learn that in a TESOL course. You don't learn how to tell somebody that they need to stop doing what they're doing in the classroom and do it this way.
Yeah.
Those are things that you kind of have to learn.
Those are more social
Exactly.
psychology kind of approaches,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Like that's not in any book. So yeah, so having to learn that and overcome my insecurities of telling somebody, because now I had to be like boss man, like being stern. You know me, I'm a very fun loving guy. So to be somebody that needs to reprimand someone else is a tough thing for me. So that was one obstacle that had to overcome.
Okay, cool. And were there any people that had like you mentioned your mom before, but besides her or even her, people that affected your journey a lot or helped you throughout your career?
So there were a couple. I think as we grow and as we learn, we find more and more mentors, so to speak. So it's definitely my mom. I think most people would say their mom and their dad. For me, it was my mom, my uncle who raised me, and then my mentor when I was working at a radio station in South Africa called Bush Radio. And he was my mentor for 3 years. And he really taught me how to figure things out on the spot. I really enjoyed his company very much. He's not with us anymore. He passed away a couple of years ago. And yeah, those are the three big mentors that I've had in my life.
Okay, cool. You still like your mom? Still a lot of contact and still helps you throughout everything.
Yeah, yeah. Well, especially during the lockdown period when everybody's mental health was just plummeting. So yeah, there was a lot more contact. But yeah, we've always had a very good relationship. We chat at least once a week, by phone call or video call. And during the COVID time, which is probably every second day, just checking in on each other, making sure that we're not, on the edge.
Are you only child or you have?
I have a sister as well. She lives in America.
Okay, nice, cool. So right now, main goal, happiness. What is right now the biggest obstacle to keep that on track?
Ooh. Right now, there aren't any obstacles because, like I said, I'm feeling very happy and motivated at the moment in time. And I mentioned that, that's the goal, the daily goal. And with a daily goal, there comes daily obstacles. So whatever comes my way, the goal is just to try and overcome these obstacles.
Okay.
It's difficult to pinpoint things like that, you know what I mean?
No, but I love when I have people like, because you have people with like physical goal or like material goals. You have people with other kind of goals, and that's why I also choose people like you, because and it's a like a constant between people. Like happiness is very important. It's just what I'm interested is how people approach their journey of staying happy or healthy. And that's why I interview more and more people as well that do that. Besides waitering and hospitality, you rolled into sound engineering, and that was one of your first interests. And then you mentioned the second one was teaching abroad, but that was because of a monetary reason. So what was the reason besides that then to keep doing that? And like, how did you find out that actually is what you really enjoy doing?
Like, it's really one of those things that just blindsided me, because like I mentioned, and like you just re-mentioned again, it was all about the money initially, and China was helping me to achieve that goal. I was getting a lot of money. Plan was to go back home, buy a couple of properties, and just kind of live and be happy with money. And teaching in China, or teaching kids specifically, showed me that I got more joy out of being in the classroom and smiling and laughing and playing with kids than I did when I got my paycheck at the end of the month. And that was an eye opener for me. And I don't know exactly when it happened, but it was during my 3 years in China where I felt, okay, it's not about the money anymore. It's about doing this with kids.
That's cool. That's really nice. One thing I always ask everybody is, throughout their journey, throughout their experiences, do you compare yourself with others?
I think it's only natural to kind of look at what other people are doing and kind of, line yourself up with them. But I've learned that that can play out two ways. It can either leave you chasing something forever, or it can help you to grow and develop. It depends on how you look at it. So what I do is I look at what other people are doing and I see if it lines up with the way that I do things. And if it doesn't, I don't follow that style, or that specific thing. If it's something that I can add to what I'm doing and make myself better, all good. So to answer the question a bit more clearly, because that was very vague, I try to learn as much from others as I can teach them. Like, I mean, you can learn from everybody. You learn from kids. The other day I was in the classroom, and everybody's feeling very down at the moment because the world is just very heavy at the moment. And these kids were cutting shapes, and it was a square, triangle, and a circle. And this kid cut the square out fairly well, messed up the triangle. The circle, I don't even want to speak about it. But this kid was so happy that they cut the square out perfectly. And in that moment, I was like, this kid doesn't care that the two things that they did was so messed up and screwed up. They were just happy that they achieved this one specific thing. And that showed me, like, we need to start thinking like that. Stop focusing on the negative. Acknowledge it for sure, but focus more on the good that you're doing. Focus more on the achievements that you are reaching.
That's very interesting. I wanted to ask you then, following up on that, for you, I assume you come across failures and achievements within your life, or even on the daily, as you mentioned. What helps you the best moving forward? Is that, as you mentioned, like the kid, just that you focus on the one thing and leave the bad or the failure maybe on the side? Or do you take the good and see what you can do next time better? How do you work with that?
So, like, I'm going to compare to one of my other loves, which is exercise at the moment. So, if you are doing an exercise, you usually do it over 3 sets. And I usually try to increase weight per set, which is normal, I guess. Now, sometimes I fail on my last set. Like, I don't complete the set because I just don't have enough stamina to reach that set. Now, the way that I look at it, you can either look at it as you failed at the end, or you can look at it as you got to the end. Because I finished all the sets before that, perfectly fine. I just failed on that last set. So what I'll do is I'll think of it in that way, of me achieving all of that. And then the next time I'm in the gym doing that same exercise, I'll remember what I last time and try to get back to that point and achieve it again. If I don't do it this week, I'll try again the next time. Just keep at it until you get it, because it's human nature to grow and develop.
Yeah, 100%. Cool. You mentioned that you look a lot on the daily side of things. What are for you your short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals for yourself?
Okay, so short-term is just to kind of get through each week, and being happy with what I've done in the classroom. Mid-term is to, at the end of the day, even if you don't care about how much money you make, you still need it to survive. So making enough for me to be okay is the midterm goal. long-term goal is to just leave my mark on people. Like, it would bring me absolute joy if I bump into a student of mine 10 years from now somewhere, or if they reach out to me on whatever the latest social media app is and just pop me a message saying, hey, I remember you from class. Um, if they reach out to me like that, that would be a long-term goal.
Yeah, that's great.
Just leaving a mark on people, I guess.
Okay.
A positive one, sorry. Let me state that clearly. A positive mark on people.
That's awesome. Yeah, great. So I mentioned already I can follow your life on social media, basically on Facebook. I follow you. Are there any other platforms we can follow you?
So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, if people still use Twitter. And I recently started a TikTok page because I like playing music and singing.
Yeah.
So I started a TikTok page, which was something that only happened very recently. I think it only started like 2 or 3 months ago.
Okay.
Because, as you age, you tend to stop wanting to adapt and learn new apps. And yeah, TikTok was one of the apps that I was just like, no, I'm okay with Facebook and Instagram. But I've succumbed to the beast and now I'm on TikTok as well.
Nice. And then for the people who are around in Saigon, on a good weekend night out, they can probably find you in one of the bars in Tadien
Yes,
singing.
you can. Yeah, I tend to ask whoever's performing at certain venues if I am allowed to come up and sing with them. So I usually end up on stage with some of the performers.
Would you want to go back into like singing, music?
No, and in a sense, I'm still doing it because to me, it's still entertainment. I'm still, entertaining kids in the classroom. I'm still dancing and singing with them in the classroom each day. I'm still speaking and communicating like I would communicate with people as a radio presenter. It's just a little bit different. But yeah, I'm kind of doing the same thing.
But there's
yeah.
no professional career goal in music anymore?
No. For me, the music is for me. People have asked me to upload or to record things a bit more professionally, but I don't want to because if I'm going to put that much time and effort into it, it takes away the fun of what I'm doing. It takes away my enjoyment.
Yeah, there's pressure on it.
Yeah. Because people are saying, why don't you add this and increase the production value? I'm like, this isn't a job. This is fun for me. I'm sitting in my living room and singing a song. Leave me.
Yeah. Especially during lockdown, I remember you and chat.
Yeah, my
That
roommate.
was wow. That was a good show every day.
The first lockdown, yeah, we kind of lost our minds. We found instruments that were sitting in our apartment for like a year, and then we just started jamming, and yeah, the videos are ridiculous.
Ridiculously good, yeah. Can I ask you, do you have any tips and tricks for people, and in your case, because you're pursuing it on a daily basis for health and happiness, what are for people that are not really into it yet, but understand that it's important, steps to get into it?
So in terms of fitness, you just need to begin and start at the bottom, leave your ego at the door. So that's the advice I give to people. You don't have to be lifting 100 kgs your first day in the gym. Nobody cares how much weight you lift. Do you enjoy what you are doing? If you don't enjoy the process, it's going to be a short process. So do things that you like in the gym and just take it day by day as it comes. In terms of mental health, slow down. We are so caught up in this whole idea that we need to do everything immediately. Slow down, it's okay. And try meditation. I'm not talking about, listening to those videos that you find on YouTube and meditate. I'm just talking about being with yourself for short periods of time ago. And just focus on your breathing, focus on trying to clear your mind. If your head's full of thoughts, write them down, get them out, speak them to people. If they're too embarrassing to speak about, write it down. Just make sure that they are expelled from your body and your mind. And this really helps with mental health.
Do you do a lot of journaling?
I don't do journaling. The way that I release is through music. So the songs and things that I record and post, it's all cover songs, but I mean it's how I'm feeling in a moment, and once it's out of my mind, and I feel a lot better.
That's great. Yeah, the previous episode also South African, Vern, and he also talked about meditation and how that brings you in a certain peace of mind and a certain flow, and then into journaling as well. And personally, I haven't gotten into it yet. I'm not sure why. Probably because my head is too much on the move, and that's probably one of the reasons I do the podcast as well, to learn and see what others do and see what works for me, because I don't want to be copying people because it works for them. It's back to like comparing yourself with others. There's many ways to do certain things and many ways to achieve certain goals. Yes. So right now I'm trying to figure out what works for me.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting talking to you as well. Do you have a favorite quote or philosophy you go by?
Like, again, this is one of those things that kind of change every couple of months. But the way that I've been living over the past years is just simply do your best, analyze what you've done, and do better next time. Simple as that.
Okay.
There's nothing more that we can do other than do our best. And if our best isn't good enough in the eyes of other people, do it out of their gaze. Like, I mean, don't let them see you. Just move out of their focus. Because your best is okay. As long as you know that it's your best. You're not doing it half-assed. Sorry, can I say assed?
It's fine. The previous guy said fuck all the time, so I have to edit that out anyway. So, cool. Thank you so much. It was very good to talk to you again. Good to see you. Good to get to know you better. Because we don't meet too often, but when we do, it's also usually under the influence of certain beverages.
Yeah, couple of beers in.
Couple of beers. Cool. Thank you so much.
Good to see you, buddy.
Hope to see you soon again.
Hope to see you.